Today's episode comes to you from Sable Forks, New York, where we visit with Becca Burke of the Meadow Farmstead. She's managed a diversified vegetable farm and CSA for the last few years on the Vermont side of Lake Champlain, but finally landed some growing space of her own over in New York. She hit the ground running, and I visited with her at the tail end of the first season on this new farm. We discuss strategic investments, lessons learned from other farms to set this new garden up right from the start, and she shares how she's striving to provide affordable food for her community.
I'm Becca, and I own and operate the Meadow Farmstead in Sable Forks. We're growing on about 3/4 of an acre and focus on mixed vegetables, and we have a small CSA and supply wholesale. This is where we were going to put our workshop wash pack, but it needs a lot of work, so we're working on jacking it up and leveling it right now.
Oh, holy moly.
Yeah, and then we're going to pour some concrete in there. And
That's
hopefully,
quite the project.
yeah, it's a great space. It's just like, it's very old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of farms have old barns.
Yeah, so we inherited the car.
Oh, wow, look at that. Farm vehicle, huh?
Yeah.
Mustang?
Yeah. Yeah, so the barn was here, and then none of this was here.
Yeah.
This was like an old hayfield a really long time ago. I guess they grew potatoes up here. So they picked a lot of rocks for us, which is great. We dug power and water from the house. So we have a power box here, and then we have water to the greenhouse. And that's how we're getting water up to the field from a gas pump from that little tank. There's a 2-inch line buried like from the basement all the way up to here.
And this is your first season, right?
This is our first season, yeah.
You moved on last fall? Is that right?
Yeah, I finished up at Shaky Ground in February.
Okay.
And we had already kind of started putting things into motion here. We plowed everything and cover cropped last fall. So the fields were like kind of laid out.
Start to break up the grass.
Yeah. And pick rocks. Mm-hmm. And then the greenhouse we started building it in November, and we didn't finish it until the spring.
Our first stop is into the brand new greenhouse. And the first words out of my mouth was, well, this looks beautiful.
Thank you. We just divided it for a little bit of season extension because we don't have any tunnel space. Yeah. And then this is like where we cured everything. And these shouldn't still be in here, but they are. Good. Pretty simple. I had like some fans on them and then just the shade cloth.
Did you add any heat or close the sides in here too, or no, because you've got greens in here?
I close the sides at night mostly for animal protection, and then we do have heat that I have set right now for like 39, just so nothing freezes until I get this stuff out of here, because I still have onions over here too. I'd say 2 nights ago was probably the first good frost though.
That was basically what there was to see at the greenhouse, so we stepped on back out for a field tour.
So all of this area we let grow wild all year. It's really beautiful with all the wildflowers. And then we put this deer fence around the entire growing space, which actually worked really well. I think one deer got in last week, but I think it was a baby and it maybe got stuck and lost. It was tiny little hooves. They munched the strawberries, but...
So it's been effective then for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen deer around a lot this season?
Oh, yeah. All the time. Like, that's why I close the greenhouse mostly. So I'm worried about them going in there. Every morning we come up, they're all out here. Yeah. And then daily there's just 50 plus up on that hillside.
The deer fence she's using is a 3D electric fence. You can see a picture of it on our website.
Yeah, it's really great, and it was very affordable. Yeah, it seems to be working. They walk right by it. One time I was mowing, and there was a couple just right outside the fence just watching me. But they didn't come in. Something about the mower, I guess. Soothes them. I don't know. This is garlic to be.
So has it been a weeding nightmare coming straight out of sod?
It actually hasn't been terrible. Granted, we're so small that I've been able to, for the most part, stay on top of it. Yeah. Where we had the most problems was over here it gets really wet, and with the summer that we had, I just couldn't weed it. So the onions were drowning in water and weeds. But now it's under a tarp. Erase the problem.
Cover that up. Look at it later. What's your growing space here this year?
This year we were half acre with all of these plots, and then that plot out there we added halfway through the season for some fall crops, and that brings it up to 3/4 of an acre. It's 50% CSA, 50% wholesale right now. We ended up not doing a farmer's market or anything, which it's been great. Yeah.
How many people are in your CSA?
20.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit to manage.
Yeah.
Were you doing a CSA before?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a little bit bigger. For the summer, we started at 15, and then for the fall, we went up to 20. So it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then hoping to grow that next year. We also opened an online store. So I haven't really launched it out into the public yet, but I'm hoping next year I'll advertise a little bit more so that people that aren't in the CSA can order and come and pick up here.
It's convenient. How big was the CSA that you managed before?
I think the biggest it was like 35.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so similar. Yeah, but we were doing a farmer's market when I was at Shaky Ground too, and if I can figure out a way
What kind is that one
to
gonna be?
bring people here and it be one day a week instead of that extra market,
Yep.
it'd be awesome. So we're putting up a high tunnel, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and it's going right here. I think we're gonna go with Connecticut greenhouse.
Okay.
Have you seen those?
I've seen them at a trade show, but not in person.
Yeah, I think they're fairly new. Their pricing is really great. Their shipping is really affordable.
Yeah.
And they give a discount for Young Farmers Coalition. And yeah, there's a lot of like add-ons that they have that I really like. They have a baseboard system that's really good. And it comes with insect netting on the sidewalls.
Yep.
And then the like humidity controlled ridge vents, not a ridge vent, the
A peak vent?
gable vents.
Gable vents, yeah.
Because we won't have electricity up here. So it's either that or Rimmel, but the Rimmel ones are a little bit more expensive. You just built one last spring?
Yeah, we rebuilt the end walls on our
Oh,
foot,
gotcha.
which in one way is, the way we did it, it came out very beautiful.
Yeah.
Very pretty to look at. But it took forever to build.
Yeah.
We did it with, it had traditional framing and like T111 siding on it, and the siding rotted off. So then we replaced it with corrugated polycarbonate, like the wavy style, which worked fine and looks great, but it's just like a whole lot of screws to put in.
Yeah.
And if I was going to do it again, I think I'd do it like I've seen a lot of other growers do it with just greenhouse poly. So add a sheet of plywood across the bottom to kind of give you that knee board to mount stuff to, and then do poly from there up. I think that would be a lot quicker to assemble
Okay.
and still look okay.
Okay.
Or full polycarbonate end walls like the big panels.
Yeah, those were pretty easy on this. Still a lot of work though.
Yeah. But I do appreciate having put in the effort when I did, because I think it's going to be long lasting. And walking by it every day when it looks nice matters a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me and for Grandpa and you know, all the other customers, like, oh, your greenhouse looks so great. It's like we weren't really hardly utilizing it to its fullest potential.
Yeah.
And we had mixed veg in there this year, just kind of Grandma's personal garden,
mostly,
and a few tomatoes that didn't amount to much, but
yeah. It was a rough year for tomatoes.
it was just dark, I think.
Yeah.
I think that was, I mean, there may be something else in our soil because there's been tomatoes in there for such a long time.
Oh,
but,
right.
I saw a thing out of from Caleb Goosen out of Maine saying, and that was back in June, that it was like the third cloudiest summer on record. It was one of the most rainiest summers on record, so that correlates.
Yeah.
That we didn't have sunlight.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that rain, just like, I mean, all of my tomatoes were in the field, so it was just blight immediately. They were so diseased.
How big's your labor crew here?
It's me.
And
Yeah, Kim and Jay have been a huge help. They helped with like building the greenhouse and laying out the fields and moving tarps with me. But they're also running a farm, so they're busy.
Oh, okay.
My partner's a teacher, so he's a big help over the summer when he has 2 months off work.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, it's just me, and I'm still trying to figure out if I want to keep it that way, or like right now I'm at a comfortable scale that I can manage it, but do I want to grow and have a crew or keep it the way it is? I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, I think it's been nice it just being me while I'm figuring things out.
Yeah, you can get your systems established, figure out what it is that you like to do,
Yeah,
where you could use a hand,
yeah, absolutely.
how to manage stuff where you don't need hands.
Yeah,
That's tricky.
I would love to work with somebody in some kind of collaboration or something.
Yeah.
We're pretty landlocked at this point. We can't really expand from here. So this
Nope.
goes up, it's about 30 acres, so it goes up pretty far, but it's very wooded and wet. We actually dug a couple irrigation ponds back here that we're hoping to maybe use in the future.
I like the deer fence.
Yeah, it's
It's
great.
inspiring.
We'll put a gate here, and then there's another gate there. I was very intentional about my layouts of having 20-foot roads, and everything's kind of in a line, which is really nice.
Are those things you've learned just from previous experiences?
Yeah. Yeah. After working places where like every field is a different size and you pull out remay and it's 2 feet too short, or
Of course, yeah.
the tarps all being different sizes, it was just always such a pain. So it's really nice to be able to design things with intention and know all of my tarps are the same size, all of my remays the same size, the fabric's the same size, everything's 100 feet long. It's just like standard and easy.
Do you have a tractor or no?
I do not.
BCS?
We just bought a BCS, so I'm still kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a tractor eventually. We have really awesome neighbors who own like a construction company in town. They do all the work at Whiteface, like digging water lines and everything. So they're the ones that came over and did the initial plowing for us and pulled our rocks for us. Those all came out of the field. Boulders.
So mostly hand tools then. What's your favorite hand tool?
Probably the scuffle hoe or the wheel hoe. Yeah, I got the Valley Oak wheel hoe. I like it.
Good. How many years were you farming before finding this piece of land?
I was in Vermont for 4 years, and maybe about a year before that of like internship and working on a couple other farms. And then before that, studying agriculture and farming at the university farm in California. Yeah, and that's actually where I met Kim. We were both at Chico State, and then she brought me here.
Well, it's a beautiful spot.
Thank you. Yeah, we have some really great views, and we're hoping to thin out some of these trees because they shade the greenhouse, and there's just some awful ones in there. And we should have this amazing view of Whiteface.
What is your biggest lessons learned from year one?
Probably just to be patient, you know, like we were talking about before. It's like you can't have everything that you want right away, and it's hard going from farming at a place where you had all of your tools, you had all of your equipment, your infrastructure was in place, and then having none of that. Something like a wheel hoe is a huge purchase, but yeah, it takes time, because buying that wheel hoe was a huge deal in the beginning of the season when I needed it, but if I needed it now, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. So yeah, just being patient and knowing that things are going to fail, and there's always next year.
Especially after this wet summer.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers are saying, I just want it to be next year.
Yeah. I know I've been hearing so many people talk about how it's like been their hardest farming season yet, and I guess I just kind of feel lucky that this is our first season and we don't have an easier season to compare it to. So it can only get better from here. Hopefully. Yeah, we're really lucky too. Our soil is very sandy. It drains really well. So we were a lot more fortunate than a lot of other people.
Got a slight slope to work with.
We've got a slope. We're up higher than everything else. So really the only flooding that we had was in that field with the onions. And now I know that that's a wet spot, and I can plan for that better.
On Instagram, like the whole farm's underwater. No, it was one plot.
That's a quarter of my growing space.
Okay, fair enough.
No, it really wasn't that bad, but now I know, and that's a big thing too, is every season that you spend on one piece of land, you know those little microclimates better. And now I know that that's a wet spot, and maybe don't put onions there.
Yeah, it's wet there, it's shady over there.
Mm-hmm. It's very sunny and sandy over here. It's a little more clay out there. Yeah, it's amazing that there can be so many variables in such a small space.
Yeah. You have experience doing this sort of thing, but you essentially hit the reset button when you moved on here, started with nothing. How'd you decide what to invest in off the bat, and do you wish you had invested in something different than a wheel-honed greenhouse?
The greenhouse was the first investment, and I do not regret that whatsoever. And I came to that conclusion by never having a proper propagation space and always, being up at midnight trying to get this crappy heater to work and being worried that your spring transplants are going to die. So I just wanted to know that I had a space that was going to work. I could start my plants in there. I could cure things in there. So we don't have a ton of other space anywhere else. So that was, I don't know, I think a really good investment for me.
Seems like it.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. And then I guess the other big investment I bought early on was tarps, because I use a lot of them. And yeah, I guess just having that experience that I had in the past was like, okay, what was really hard and what would make it easier going in with nothing. Irrigation was a big investment as well.
Yeah, was it really dry over here in May and June?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have water then, actually. So we were carting up 55-gallon barrels in the backs of our trucks with a little pond pump with a hose and watering in our strawberries and our early spring transplants. Yes. So then once I invested in irrigation and got it set up, I never used it.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. But now I have it, and
turned it on once, and then it rained.
Yeah, and then it didn't stop raining.
So what are you looking forward to next year?
Starting again, having a blank slate, knowing the land better, and really excited about putting up a high tunnel and being able to have an enclosed space and have some winter production. I don't know if we'll go year round, but at least having that security.
Yeah.
I really miss tunnel growing. Everything grows so nice in a tunnel.
How many tunnels were at Shaky Ground?
They had 3, and they were not really small. They were about the size of the greenhouse. So smaller than, the ones I usually see. So having that one, I'll almost be at the planting space that I was there, and that felt really comfortable. So who knows, maybe next we'll put one over here.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to once this is all put to rest, to be able to, look at the spreadsheets and plan for next year.
Right. You've got some spots here and here that are still grass. Is that for a particular reason?
Access.
Okay.
Yeah, I like just being able to drive around everything, be able to pull my truck in here, get to the compost, get to that plot, and they're wide enough that I can make the turns.
Yeah.
And then there's a boulder there. That might be ledge, so it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe if we end up with a tractor one day, we can fill in this space and have more growing space. But I really like, and that goes back to experience of other places where there was permanent fencing and I couldn't even get a walk behind tractor in some places. So I really wanted to be able to access everything, have room to move tarps, have room to move remay.
That's a good point too. Just having a flat lawn space where you can stretch stuff out and roll it up, not on your beds.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or have space to drive your truck in with your 55-gallon barrel of water.
Yeah, along the end sides of it, and
Yeah, it's really great for harvesting as well. We had our winter squash here, and being able to drive up the row, because we're not driving in the fields at all. So being able to drive up and harvest, and then same thing if we ever get our cabbages out, to be able to drive over there.
Right. Less driving. Very strategic.
who knows? You'll come back next year and it'll all be filled in. But
I wanted space.
well, when we initially designed it, we very much so were designing around boulders that we could see. So we were like, this is a boulder, it can be a road. And there was one over here as well. And then our neighbor, Elliot, thank you so much, Elliot, came over and was just like, oh, I'll get that. Pulled all of them out. So yeah, it's easy to like look at a piece of land and think that you have to just work with that, but you really can make changes that'll work for you.
It may just involve an excavator.
Yeah, absolutely. Get yourself an Elliot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neighbors with equipment.
Yeah, so amazing. He also leveled where our greenhouse is because that was not flat either.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet up here too. Is there much traffic on that road or no?
There's not really, no. And most of our neighbors are pretty quiet. They're mostly older. Linda across the street, she actually used to own this property. And my partner lived in the little house down there. And he was here for 5 years before he convinced her to sell it to him. So thank you, Linda, as well.
Is she excited to see it in production?
I think she is because she remembers this being like a working horse farm.
Okay.
And she's really excited to see it being put to use. She didn't want to sell it because she was afraid that somebody was just going to, build some houses up here. She's got to look at it. We were worried that she was not going to be happy about her view of the greenhouse, but she's really excited that it's just getting used.
Great.
Yeah. During the summer, she can't see us quite as much.
Yeah.
But now that all those leaves are down, it's like, I feel so exposed.
Are there many other vegetable farms around here that would be potential competition or no?
There's not a ton. There's Wild Work and that as far as like bigger ones, there's North Point up in Plattsburgh, Juniper Hill.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
And Tangleroot Farm in Essex. Those are kind of the main ones, and I mean, I know all of them, and everybody's been really friendly.
Cool.
So there's definitely less than in Vermont, and it is different. The markets are quite different, but I think there's not a CSA, at least, that serves like this immediate area.
Yeah.
So people previously would have to drive to Essex or to one of the pickup locations in like Plattsburgh or Saranac Lake.
Yeah.
So people like that it's close and it's local.
Yeah. What does sustainable farming mean to you?
Something that makes sense that I can keep coming back to every year. And still trying to figure out what the balance is between, it's important for me to grow food that's affordable. I want to grow food that I would be able to afford if I was buying it, but I also want to be able to pay myself. So trying to find that balance. And of course, just taking care of this land in a responsible way.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? How do you turn off work that doesn't stop and relax a little bit?
I learned to love winter. I got into skiing a couple years ago, and Whiteface is 15 minutes up the road, and it's an amazing local mountain. And yeah, it turns out I love skiing, and hopefully we have a wet winter and we can get into the backcountry a little bit more. I'm excited about that. During the growing season, I like to read a lot. And for a long time, I was only reading farming books, and it would take me forever to get through a book. And then I realized that I needed to do something different. So I like to read like a totally irrelevant fiction novels, and that's like something to turn off my brain from everything else.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because, yeah, I kept reading these farming books, and there's great information in there, but I was like, oh my gosh, I never finish a book anymore. I was like, well, read something else. Do something else with your time.
Your brain, is that enough agriculture
Enough
sometimes?
farming.
Yeah.
Farming's fun too, though. I like to do that for fun.
Right.
I mean, you have to like it if you're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, it's my long-term plan to be a full-time farmer.
You and me both. Yeah.
Well, this is great. I'm glad I stopped in. Thanks for showing me around.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I'm Andy Chamberlain, and that was The Farmer's Share. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Becca Burke of the Meadow Farmstead. You can follow her farm journeys on Instagram at the Meadow Farmstead or visit her website, themeadowfarmstead.com. This show has been awarded a grant offered by the USDA Specialty Crop Block Program from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. This funding will help cover some of my time and travel in order to produce more episodes of this podcast for the next 2.5 years. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service supports projects that address the needs of U.S. specialty crop growers and strengthen local and regional food systems. I have no doubt that this podcast will meet those needs and help educate growers to support the industry. The Farmer's Share is also supported by the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association and the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. If you enjoy this show and want to help support its programming, you can make a one-time donation or reoccurring donation on our website by visiting thefarmershare.com/support. On our website, you can listen to previous interviews or see photos, videos, or any relevant links discussed from the conversation. If you don't want to miss out on the next episode, enter your email address on our website and you'll get a note in your inbox when the next one comes out. The Farmer's Share has a YouTube channel with videos from several of the farm visits. We're also on Instagram, and that's where you can be reminded about the latest episode or see photos from the visit. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you could write a review. Honestly, there's only 13 ratings and 2 reviews on my podcast, and I know a whole lot more people listen to the show, so I'd love it if you could leave a little note in Apple Podcasts. In the app, just click on the show, scroll down to the bottom, and there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with other grower friends or crew if you think it'd be inspiring for them. Thanks for listening.